And we are live. It's your favorite insurance agents, Darnold Jr. and
Michelle DeSalle of Telltale.
Telltale. And we appreciate you guys for jumping on. This is Finlit Live. If you are watching live, go ahead and in the chat type hashtag live. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and type hashtag replay. This is the show where we learn about financial literacy, because growing up, I feel like they didn't teach me how money works, and I'm still learning. I honestly have more questions than answers, so that's the purpose of the show, is where we bring on guests from various personal financial backgrounds, and we interview them and we ask them about their story and about their wisdom to share with us. That way we could glean some more wisdom as far as how money works. And today I'm actually super excited. This is going to be more of an inspirational show than anything. And this guest, if he didn't make excuses, I don't think anybody should make excuses. And so this is the show to tune into. And this is our dear friend. We've known him for a while now. And so without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive in and get lit. All right, so for today's show, we have Gabriel. So let's go ahead and add him to the screen. Hey, Gabe, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going, Darnell? And hello, Dr. Michelle.
Hi, Gabe.
Yeah,
it's so great to have you with us.
Excuse me?
It's so great to have you with us this evening.
Thank you. Well, it's my pleasure, and thank you both for inviting me as your guest today. My complete name is Gabriel Najera. Some people have a hard time pronouncing the last name just because it's actually a Spanish last name. I come from Spain, but that's not where I come from. I'm actually originally from Mexico City, even though a lot of people don't know that or don't realize it, because I have the Texas twang, and that's because I was raised here in Texas. I was raised here in Houston most of my life. But my last name coming from Spanish. Some people have a hard time with it, but anyway, you can call me Gabriel, whatever you want to call me. Just don't call me late for dinner. That's what I always tell me.
That's awesome.
So Gabe, tell us about. You just told us your name. You told us where you're from. Tell us about your company and how long you've been doing what you're doing.
Well, I run a business now, which is actually the seventh business that I have operated or that I created in the last 35 years. I started as an entrepreneur 35 years ago. Actually, before I get into the business side, let me get a little more into the personal side so you can know a little bit more about me, and that way the business side will make a little more sense. Like I said, I was born originally in Mexico City back in July 13, 1966. So that makes me 55. I'll be 56 next month. And back in those days, 60s, well, there wasn't a lot of hope for people with handicaps, much less children born with a handicap. And it wasn't no different for me. When I was born, doctors took one look at me and they automatically thought, at first that I wasn't going to live for very long. And they put me in my mother's arms and gave my mom the advice to basically enjoy every second that I was going to be around, because they didn't think I was going to live for more than maybe just a couple of hours or a couple of days. But my mom took me in her arms and held me tightly and said, let it be God's will.
Yeah.
That's all she said, as she held me in her arms, and she held me real tight. And throughout my life, it has basically been just one big testimony of, that there are no limits, that nothing is impossible. And especially when, the first thing your mom does with you is, put you in God's hands, like my mom did with me, when she said, let it be God's will. And so as I was growing up in my childhood, well, most people would look at me and say, oh, poor little guy, poor little kid, he never could probably amount to much. They always thought that I was going to be totally, helpless, and that I was going to need someone to take care of me probably 24/7, and that my future just didn't look very bright. But actually, they were very mistaken, because my parents were the type of people that They were not going to give up easily. They knew that they had a child that needed a life, and that life needed to be as normal as possible. So they looked, for opportunities all the time, and anytime an opportunity opened up, they took it. And that's basically the way that I was raised, with that mentality that opportunities are there. We just have to learn how to make the best of them, how to take advantage of the opportunities.
Yes.
Unfortunately, a lot of people don't learn that lesson. Most people, there are a lot of opportunities passing by. They're like, oh, that's not for me. Oh, I wasn't cut out for that. Oh, I wasn't born in the right zip code. Or I wasn't born with the right color skin. Or I wasn't born in the right country. Or I wasn't born with, blonde hair or dark hair or blue eyes or green eyes or brown eyes. All kinds of excuses for letting opportunities pass by. But not with my parents. They were totally different, and they raised me with that mentality that opportunities are there for everyone, for everybody, in equal basis, without any kind of regard for race, color, nationality, or nothing at all whatsoever. And so my life was always, an opportunity came up, and my parents took it. So the first opportunity that came up was that my parents, while I was living in Mexico City, I lived there for the first 5 years of my life. My parents ran into this man that was traveling from Houston to Mexico City, and my parents, spoke to this man that they met just casually, and they, started talking about me. And this person took an interest in me. Then to find out that person was the head doctor of the Shriners Hospital here in Houston. Back in the day, Houston used to have, Shriners Hospital. Unfortunately, I think they closed down now. But, Shriners Hospital being an orthopedic hospital, which was totally free, they took me in and brought me here to the States when I was 5 years old. They brought me here to fit me with prosthetics. Yes. They thought that I could do better by having a pair of artificial arms and a pair of artificial legs. Right now, you can only see me from the waist up, but from the waist down, my legs are not completely developed. I do have legs, and I can walk, and I do have my feet, but my feet are turned like upside down. So I walk literally on the top side of my feet versus on the bottom side. But so the doctors thought that I'd be better off with some prosthetic legs and some prosthetic arms, and so they did their thing of making me some artificial legs and arms. And I tried them out, and I kept them for like about 6 or 7 years of my life. Mm-hmm. Actually, I kept them for about 10 years. That I was trying to make them work. Unfortunately, the artificial arms never worked because the only thing I could do with them was flex the elbow and open. I had hooks for hands. I'm sure you've probably all seen people with hooks, but I didn't have the part of the shoulder that connects the shoulder with the arm. So it's impossible for me to raise the arm or bend it back and forth. It's all the movement you do with your shoulder. So the arms are pretty useless. They were okay for aesthetics. They made me sometimes look like I had arms, but well. And then the artificial legs, they worked pretty good in the beginning because, with my feet being turned upside down, there wasn't too many pair of shoes that I could actually wear. Actually, there were no pair of shoes that I could wear during my childhood. And so when they made me these prosthetics, these prosthetics were kind of like these tubes that my feet would go into, and they would raise the height as I got older, so that way I could be as tall as the rest of the kids my age. And I walked on shoes, so that was great because I was able to get out and walk the streets, and I could walk without them, but only in the house where I wouldn't hurt my feet or damage the tops of my feet. But so the prosthetic legs were okay, except that with the passing of years, I learned to use my feet and my hands. Where I now do everything that you can do with your hands, I can do it by using my feet. My feet are my hands. And people they say that, wow, they can't even tell that, that they're actually feet, because of the way that I use them, and I can do everything that most people can, I can cook, wash, iron, paint. I repair computers and electronics. I drive my own car, and I've done just about everything that most people dream about, and even more. There's a video on YouTube. Well, I have a lot of videos on YouTube that you can find me as by my name, Gabriel Najera, or you can look up If I Can, You Can. One of the videos that I have on there, most of my videos are in Spanish because I do a lot of traveling to Mexico and Central America and South America with motivational conferences that I do. So I've learned, I filmed a lot of stuff in Spanish, but there's one particular film that you can watch. You don't necessarily have to understand what I'm saying. Is where I'm scuba diving and I'm jumping off an airplane, parachuting, and doing zip lining, and all kinds of neat little stuff that a lot of people dream about doing and have never even tried. I fulfilled one of my earlier dreams not too long ago, a couple of months ago, that a friend of mine took me up on his private plane, and while we were up there, he was like, "Hey, you ever flown a plane?" And I was like, "No." And I was sitting next to him, and I was a co-pilot. He said, "Well, it's all yours." And he,
Come on.
I got to fly that plane. I flew it all the way from West Houston Airport to almost Corpus Christi. It was about a 45-minute hike.
I'm jealous. I want to fly a plane.
That was just amazing. I mean, it was a really wonderful, experience that I always dreamed of one day I'd like to fly a plane, and never thought it would come true, at least not this early. Well, not early. I'm 55, so I guess it's late enough in my life. But nothing has stopped me. There's no limits. I don't believe in impossible. Many years ago, I learned that the word impossible, if you break it down, it's actually spelled I am, the contraction I am, and then possible. I am possible, not impossible, but I am possible. That everything in life has a possibility. If you only just look at the side of the fact that, yes, you can do it and work towards, whatever your goals are and your dreams. And that, your dreams and your goals don't necessarily come true overnight. They're not like the ones you sleep on where, you dream about them at night and in the morning you hope that they were true. But, dreams are, things that take time, and they eventually do evolve if you believe in them enough and if you, strive for making them come true. So that's a little bit of my history as a child, I guess, in a short version. Actually, I have a 2-hour conference called If I Can, You Can, and I give much more detail and I tell a whole bunch of more stories about my life. But as I got older, I went through all my education. My parents found this one school that was a school for handicapped. It wasn't in Mexico. They did look for a school in Mexico, but unfortunately, like I said, back in the 60s and 70s, handicapped kids just didn't really exist. Most people would hide them, or they would, lock them up in a closet, throw away the key, and come back 20 years later, and hope to find somebody different. Or treat them like they had some kind of disease, like if you don't come near them, because your arms might fall off, But thank God a lot of things have changed, especially in third world countries like Mexico and a lot of Central American countries, where nowadays, handicapped people are seen, as, people that can do things. But anyway, my parents found this one school that was recommended by the Shriners here in Houston, which is a school for handicapped kids. And it wasn't here in Houston. It's actually in a little town not too far from here that you both probably very familiar with, Port Arthur, Texas, had this one school for handicapped kids. It was called the Hewan School for Handicapped Children, which later turned into the Bob Hope School, which is now no longer a handicapped school, but is now an actual public school and one of the biggest and best schools in Port Arthur and the Beaumont area. They turned it into a magnet school, and I'm proud to say that I was one of the people that actually started that school. And I was on the board of directors when they were talking about turning into a magnet school, so that made me even more proud to say that. I not only participated while I was a kid, but then as an adult, I was able to continue the legacy of it being such a good school. Anyway, enough publicity about the school. And so I grew up there in Port Arthur, and went to Beaumont, which is the nearest town where I could go to college. I went to Lamar University in Beaumont, where I studied computer science and became an assistant engineer. And that was actually what I always loved. My passion was always computers. I always, from the first time I touched the very first, home computer, back in the days, when it was the Apple computer or called the Apple IIs, which I'm sure most of you probably, put your hands on it one time or another. That, I first touched that computer, I was like, wow, this is great. I had a vision that, that little machine would one day eventually become a very important tool for a lot of people in the world. So I was able to study how to be able to make it do what I wanted to do and learn to, plan for, okay, what else can we do with these machines? And so I studied that career. And after I finished, then I was able to get out and start looking for work. But unfortunately, well, nobody would hire me. A lot of people would use the excuse that they couldn't hire me because I didn't have any experience. Which most college grads go through that. Well, how do you get experience if nobody's willing to give it to you? But I could actually tell that it was a little more than that with me. It wasn't just that I didn't have experience. I could tell from the look in their face, that they were kind of shady about that I could really do the work. Because they were wondering, well, how's he going to, type on the keyboard, or how's he going to, take a screwdriver and disassemble the computer or put one together,
Yeah.
And so, I fought, hard, long and hard, trying to, get out and do what most people do, find a job. But, it just wasn't in the storyline.
Yeah.
Actually, God had another plan for me. And that was that one day a friend of mine, came up to me when I was looking for work, and I was talking to him, and he said, "You know what, Dave? You're never going to get a job." And I was like, "Gee, thanks. Thanks for the encouragement." And he looked at me and said, "No, don't take it the wrong way." He said, you're never going to get a job if you keep doing what you're doing." And I was like, "Well, what am I doing wrong? I'm doing what everybody else does. I look in the paper, and call up the places, and I go for the interview." And he looked at me and said, "Yeah, and then what?" I said, "Well, then he told me, don't call us, we'll call you." And so, that was my life for about 2 years, trying to find a job, and in between, trying to make a living, selling, I learned the art of selling. I could sell anything, by the time I was good at going through that. I was able to sell everything from cosmetics to vitamins and pantyhose, and you name it, I could sell it.
Wow.
If I try to sell an iceberg to an Eskimo, he would probably buy it, And so, when my friend told me this, he said, what you need to do is you learn to think outside the box. And I was like, think outside of what box? I don't see no box around here. What are you talking about? And he's like, you got to learn to think outside the box. He said, you're doing the same thing everybody else is doing, so you're going to get the same results that they're getting, and that's why they're all standing in there in the unemployment line. He said, when are you going to learn that, if you keep banging your head against the wall, guess what? The wall's not going to move. You're going to break your head before the wall does. You've got to learn outside the box. And I was like, okay, so what do you mean? He said, well, you want something different, you've got to try something different. Otherwise, you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same result. He said, if you're happy with the result, then by all means, keep doing what you're doing. But if you're not happy with the results, go out and do something different. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, yeah, okay, well, it's nice to see you. Take your box with you, okay, we'll talk another day. And so, it was about a couple of weeks, about a month later or so, that one day I woke up in the middle of the night, about 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and I was like, wow, yeah, man, my friend was right. I've got to do something different. I got to think outside the box. I don't know about y'all, if y'all wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with some of the best ideas like I do, but, when I asked that question at my conferences, I said, how many people here wake up in the middle of the night with some great ideas? A lot of people raise their hands, and I'm like, gee, I'm glad I'm not the only lunatic around here. But, I woke up with this great idea, and I was like, man, why didn't I think about this earlier? And my great idea was, well, if nobody's going to hire me, then I'll just go out and start my own business. Good. Yeah, wow, what a great idea. Yeah. So and I got up that morning. I ran to the courthouse and registered my company name. My first business that I had was called Soft Heart Systems. I was a computer company. I was a computer geek. So I named the soft software, hard hardware. And so I developed this company that well, it wasn't easy in the beginning. Because well, they never taught me in school, not in kindergarten, first grade, or high school or college, how to run a business. All they taught me was how to, add 2 plus 2 and multiply and divide, and then, learn how to, do all these fancy equations for the computer, but they never really taught me anything about life. And that was the beginning of Life 101. How do you make this work?
Yeah.
And so I thought back, to the days of, my friend telling me I need to think outside the box again. And so I sat at my desk one day after I went out and registered my DBA, and came back home all happy and proud because, I was now the proud owner of, a company. And so I sat there at my desk where I had my notepad, and I kept track of all the companies that I had gone for an interview. And so I sat there and I looked at the list. And I started to call all those companies back. But this time I wasn't calling them to ask them for a job. Yeah. This time I was calling them and I was saying, excuse me, good afternoon. We're calling from Soft Heart Systems. And we know that you're looking for a program, for your computer that does this and this and this and that. I knew what they needed because I'd already gone to the interview. And so, I would say, well, we'd like to propose to you to allow us to, basically write this program for you, and we'll only charge you half of what you were going to pay for an employee for a whole year, and we'll do it in half the time. Instead of 12 months, we'll write this program for you in 6 months.
Wow.
Incredible.
That totally changed the perspective. I was no longer seeking employment, but I was offering them something from a company.
Wow.
Yes.
Not everybody took me up on my offer. There was a couple of people that, but I did have one. I did have one company that took me up on my offer.
That's all it takes.
And that's all I needed. One opportunity, one chance. That's all I've ever asked for. That's all I think all of us as humans ever want, is to be given one opportunity. Give me a chance to show you what I'm made of. Give me an opportunity to show you what I can do, what I'm capable of. And if I make it, great. If I fail, well, I just go and try again. And so this one company gave me this one opportunity. We didn't sign a contract. All we did was just agree that, I would write the code for them in 6 months, and that they would wait for 6 months for me to do it. Didn't even ask them for a penny until the job was completed. And so I worked long hours, long and hard. I stayed up many nights and I sat there and worked in that program until I finally got done. I finished it about 3 weeks ahead of schedule. Back in those days, I'm sure you remember, programs used to come in boxes full of discs. They call them floppy disks.
Floppy disk, yes.
Yep.
I made my program on this box of floppy disks. I'll never forget it was 36 disks, all together. And so I sent the box over to the company for them to try out the program. And then I sat there at my desk at home and waited for the phone to ring. They called me up about 5 days later. They called me up and they said that they tried the program, they tested it, and that it was exactly what they were looking for. They had everything that they needed.
That's awesome.
They wanted to make just a couple of, minor changes to it, but they were pleased, And I was like, yeah, no problem. I'll make whatever changes you want, Hey, that's what I'm here for. And so the next day I get up real early in the morning and I drove down to the company, and the guy, I spoke with the owner of the company and he was like, yeah, sure, come on by and, I'll have a check ready for you. So I got up the next morning real excited and I drove down there and knocked on the door and the owner of the company, looked at me and it's like, what are you doing here? I was like, I came by to pick up a check. And he looked at me and said, a check? What for? You don't work here. He said, I remembered you. I interviewed you about 6 months ago, didn't I? I was like, yeah, I came back here and asked you for a job about 6 months ago. He said, yeah, I remember. He said, but I didn't hire you. And I was like, no, you didn't hire me. And he said, well, so why are you here? What check are you talking about? I was like, a check for the company, Soft Art Systems. Oh, yeah, the company that wrote that program for it. Oh, yeah, sure. I got this check here for you. Before that, you're working for them now? They give you a job?
Wow.
No, not exactly. And he's like, oh, what? You must work for the carrier company. They sent you to pick up the check for them, right? Like, no, I don't work for a carrier company either. He says, so why are you picking up the check then? And I said, because that's my company.
Yes.
Nice. Got him.
And he looked at me and he just smiled and he said, wow. He said, congratulations. He said, wow, y'all really did a good job. The program is perfect. It's exactly what we wanted. We just need to make a couple of changes. And I said, yeah. I said, I spoke with you yesterday. And he said, oh, that was you I talked to? And I said, yeah, that was me. And I said, yeah, well, okay, well, hey, congratulations, we really like this. He said, by the way, he said, we've got another project pretty similar to that. I don't know if you, want to take a look at it, maybe, work on it again, working this new project for us. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll take it. And so he gave me the project, and he said, well, take it back with you, and y'all can look at it and talk over it. If you have any questions, give me a call, and we can discuss it more. And I was like, yeah, great. And can I have the check? And so he handed me the check, and as I was getting ready to walk out the door, he called me back. Oh, excuse me, by the way. I was like, oh man, I hope he didn't change his mind about the check. So I walked back into his office and he said, I just have one more question for you. I was like, yeah, sure. What's up? And he's like, how many people work for you? I just looked at him and I smiled and I said, me? Wow.
Nice.
You did the program by yourself? I was like, yeah. Can you see the dark circles under my eyes? I was like, yeah. I even lost some weight while doing it.
Got some added benefits.
He's like, wow, man, that was incredible. He said, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, since it's just you, for that other new project that I just gave you, would you consider maybe coming over to to our company over here and becoming part of our family over here? I don't think so. I think we can keep working just the same way we're working right now. Your company with my company, if that's okay. And he was like, yeah, we work pretty good in this first project, so all right, go ahead and take the other project and get back with us. Well, thanks to that one opportunity and the second project, I was able to hire another programmer and then a couple more people, and eventually, within the first 12 years of that company that I had, that company grew to be a multi-million-dollar company. Well, I'll say multi. First 3 years, we were grossing over $2.5 million a year.
Wow.
And eventually, that one customer was one of my favorite because he referred me to some of his customers and some of his vendors, and that helped my business grow to the degree that it grew. And along those 12 years that I was running that company, I started dealing with some international companies that started requiring me to go to other countries, mostly Central American countries, Mexico and Central America. And so I got to know a few other people, and when I would travel to some of these other offices in these other countries, they would always ask me, "Hey, can you get us this computer that that here in our country costs about $4,000, $5,000, but I'm sure you could probably get it cheaper in the U.S." And yeah, sure enough, it would cost them 5,000 over there. I could buy it here for 1,000. Like, all right, okay, we'll see. It looks like we got a little business here. So I opened up a second company that was an import-export company where I was exporting mostly. I was exporting mostly computers, software, peripherals. And so I was running two companies, and then all of a sudden, people started asking me about, hey, you know anything about this thing called the network and how to set up networks? Where we can connect our Houston office with our Mexico office. And I was like, yeah, I know a little bit about networks, and yeah, we can help you set up your network. So eventually I started running networks, from company to company or office to satellite offices. And so I started a third company that was totally a network company, set up networks, which eventually turned into what we now know as the internet, where everything is connected on a worldwide basis. And so as the internet was born, all of these companies then started asking me, hey, you know anything about this thing called email and a website and something about www.w something. I'm like, yeah, I know a little bit about that too. And it's like, what could you come teach my people here at the company how to do all that? Yeah, sure, we can do that. So I started another company that was totally internet business, because that was the birth of what I knew was going to be the future. I once read that, eventually computers, television, and telephones were going to become one. That was, the vision, 40, 50 years ago. And when I read about that, I've always kept thinking in the back of my head, knowing that, wow, I've got to keep up with some of this. And so, anyway, I was now running, 3 or 4 companies now at the same time. And so, if it wasn't enough, and I didn't have enough to do, I one day got hungry. And I sure would like to, eat some tacos today. So, one day I started a little taco stand. And it was pretty successful. Which I eventually, sold it to the employees that I had hired. They wanted to buy it from me, and I sold it to them. Anyway, that's my little talk about, opportunities and how to make the most of them. And how to acknowledge, when you've got something in front of you and you just know that it's got to work and you really believe in it, that you can actually make something of it. And it wasn't just about the money, because money would come in, just like, a natural thing. Because what I was doing was something that was beneficial to someone else. And when you're in a business, when you're in a business that you're doing something that's going to benefit someone or something, or even yourself, the money itself is not the problem or the solution. The money is just a tool that comes along. It's part of what you're going to do. And those are some of the lessons that I've learned in life, and those are some of the things that a lot of the points that I share in my conferences and my workshops that I do about how to be successful, how to be a money magnet, how to start a business. And my most recent thing, and I say recent, although I've been doing it now for the last 20 years, is that I turned into a motivational speaker. And that was a totally another different story, in that I one day took my car to the car wash to get it cleaned. And so I took my car and I gave it to the guys there. They ran it through the soap and the suds. Then I walked outside and went to go pick up my car after they were through with it. And when I got in the car, I grabbed my door, to close it. And all of a sudden, somebody was grabbing my door, and I turned around and looked, and I saw this man that was, dressed in a suit and tie, and, he was pretty sharp looking, and he looked at me and says, "You're not really going to drive this car, are you?" Yes, I am. I came here in the car's mine, and I'm driving away.
Wow.
Man, I can't believe it. You must be out of your mind. You don't have any arms and look, your legs are short, and you can't even reach the pedals. How in the world did you do this? So I have to stop and show them, how the car is, adapted so that I can reach the pedals. And it's a pretty simple adaptation that I do have back when I was 20 years old, and I needed a car to get around because you can't live in this country with a car. And so I proceeded to show him, how the car was fixed and how I drove it, and so he was all amazed, and he was like, "Man," he said, "you must have been a God sent because I'm a pastor at the church." He said, "And you've got to come to my church. You've got to come and talk to my people. You're such an inspiration." He said, "I really got to get you to come. Could you please come to my church?" I was like, "Okay, only because you begged me, Have you ever spoken in public?" And I was like, "No, I've never spoken in public." And I said, I took a class one time in college, it was an elective, so I got a C in it. And you've got to come speak at my church. It's real simple. You just stand beside me, up there on the altar, and I'll just ask you a couple of questions, and you just answer them, just like we're talking right now. I was like, all right, sure, I'll give it a try. Why not? So he invited me over to his church, and he said, "Oh, by the way, I had 3 services. You don't mind doing 3, do you?"
That's funny.
If I can do 1, I guess I can do 3. So I went ahead and I showed up in his church.
That must have been a Black Pentecostal church, Gabriel.
No, it wasn't Black Pentecostal, but it was a Christian. I guess Pentecostal, I don't remember, but it was a Christian church. And he had the first service that was at 7:30 in the morning. And there was about maybe 80 people that showed up. And then the next service was at 9 o'clock. And there was about 500 or 600 people at that service.
Wow.
And then the next service was at 11 o'clock, which was almost about 2,000 people.
Wow.
Gabriel, this has been...
My life has totally changed. It was never the same after that, because as I stood there and spoke to the people, and I can still remember it because it still happens to me every time that I get up in front of the public, and I can speak in front of 10, 20 people as well as I can speak in front of 10,000, which I've had, a crowd of 10,000 in a stadium. And, I still see the look on the people's faces as I start to speak. A lot of times, some people show up and they're sitting there with their arms crossed, like somebody dragged them there, and they didn't really want to go, but they're there just to please, their spouses or parents. And by the end of the speech, or by the end of my conference, I can see that they're totally different. I see that their faces change, their arms, their bodies relax. Some of them are in tears. Some of them they lose that look on their face that they walked in with, and they walk out with a glow, a glow and a big smile. And even if they have tears on their faces, they're tears of joy, not tears of sadness. And when I did that at the church that one time, and afterwards the people came up to me and hugged me real tight, and they all thanked me for sharing my story and thanked me for changing their lives. It was then that I realized that I had a purpose in life. That my purpose in life was not about the businesses that I had. It was not about what I learned or didn't learn in college or in high school or in primary school. It wasn't about, whether I made a lot of money or not. It was about changing people's lives. That was my purpose in life. And as I go through life now and talk to people, I realize that the biggest problem people have in the world is not knowing their purpose in life,
Yes.
why they are here. What brought them to this world to be able to do. What are they supposed to do, change, to create that makes life worth living? I gave a conference speech one time at a university. I'll never forget. It was a university in Monterrey, Mexico, where I had about 3,000 students, and the whole faculty showed up just to hear me. And at the end, this old gentleman that was sitting right in the front, which later I found out was the director of the university. He walked up to me and he said, Gabriel, he said, I am 83 years old. He said, I've been the director of this university and all of its campuses all over the country, which they had like 32 campuses. He said, I've been the director of this university for 30 some odd years. He said, I've lived and traveled and done many things. He said, but I've never really thought about what my purpose in life was until today. He said, now, in my 83 years, he says, I'm going to now start looking for my purpose in life. For whatever years I have left, he says, that's my next goal in life. And it's all because of the way that you taught me about life.
That's awesome.
And
absolutely,
like I said, life's never been the same. The businesses that I had started previously, I had, some of them, a couple of them I sold off. One of them I just shut it down. I still have my internet business, which I've only got about 5 customers, 5 clients. And that's because they won't let me go. And they're like, please don't leave us, I'm not going to leave you, I'll keep the business going. But, you got to understand, I travel a lot. I'm gone a lot because I travel all over the world. And I can't, cater to you, at that precise moment when you need sometimes, it's not a problem. We can handle it. We can work something out. Keep us under your belt. It's like, all right. So I still got about 5 or 6 customers that I cater to in my internet business. But really, like I said, my passion, my purpose in life is now my business of public speaking, motivational speaking, and I do workshops, I do seminars. I've got a workshop called 24 Hours to Live. It's a 2-day workshop that I do. And like I said, I enjoy life, because that's what life was meant. It was meant to be enjoyed. It was meant to be lived, and with no remorse. I don't regret anything that I've done. I'm not saying that I'm perfect or that everything I've done is perfect, but I don't regret anything that I've done because everything has been a living experience. I always say, life is nothing but a one big experience that we have to learn something from. And the day that we stop learning is the day we stop living. So we must continue to grow. We must continue to live and learn, because otherwise we're dead. We're dead when we stop learning. So,
Gabriel, you have totally changed my life. Right now, my eyelashes, I hope they stay on because I know that I'm about to lose my eyelashes. I've been holding back tears because it's so powerful. We see you all the time in our circle and everything, but to know the intricate details of your life and your story, I have such a different, profound respect for you, my friend. And I can't even think of a reason that I could ever make another excuse. I am so honored and so grateful. And I know that our listening audience, viewers will be too. Darnell, I know you don't have any eyelashes, but are you okay over there?
I'm hanging in there. Yeah, Gabriel's story is so inspirational. It's just, what excuses do we have? And I love the fact that you went on an interview and they end up hiring you anyways, but through your own company.
Thank you.
Didn't know that they were hiring him.
My company name is now That's Inspiration. That's the name of my company.
That's
Excellent.
Inspiration. Perfect name. Perfect.
Thank
And
you.
this has been a perfect interview. And never once in an interview have I not wanted to ask questions. I just wanted to hear what you had to say.
Well, I don't mind me doing a small commercial. I would like to put a little plug here that I am having an event, a public event that's going to be September 16th, which is sponsored by a couple of companies here in Houston that Donna is also familiar with. One of them being Sunshine Employment, and the other one being Alamo Tamales, which is where we're going to be having this live event on September 16th, which happens to be Mexico's Independence Day. And that's kind of like a reason for us to have the event is we'll be celebrating September 16th at this Mexican restaurant called Alamo Tamales on the north side of Houston. And I hope that everyone can come and join us. You can look up more information about the event on my website, or you look me up on any Facebook or my Instagram, or you can contact the Alamo Tamales or Sunshine Personnel, and they can give you all the information about how to be able to purchase the tickets. It's going to be a show and dinner event. So when you purchase a ticket, you will be getting not only a show, which is my conference, along with also a good friend of mine, Liliana Elizondo, who is a very wonderful singer, is going to be entertaining us with her beautiful voice that she has. She'll be singing. And you'll also be treated to some wonderful food, if you like Mexican food, at the tamale company here called the Alamo Tamales. So that's a little plug. I'm hoping that you don't mind me plugging that in, and hope that everyone who watches this between now and September 16th is invited to join us for this.
Oh, that's perfect.
Awesome.
Well, count me in.
Me too.
So we appreciate you for being on the show, and it's definitely a show for the books. Oh my gosh, I think I'm going to go back and rewatch this one over and over and over. So we appreciate you for sharing your heart and for your story and your journey. And sounds like your journey's not over. You still got a purpose. Yeah. You still got lives to touch. So keep going. If there's any way we can encourage you, let us know. Because sometimes the people that do the encouraging need encouraging sometimes, right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I've always run into, people who not only teach me something new, which is, what I feed off of. I feed off of what I learned from other people. But also, the encouragement, a good pat on the back and saying, hey, keep going, don't give up, because, the road is rough, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't, that there's no into it, you've got to travel the road, whatever road you choose, because, you choose the road that you travel. Although some people say, well, I didn't choose it. No, you did choose it. Maybe you didn't make the choice today or yesterday, but you probably made the choice, a year ago or 5 years ago or 15, 20 years ago, when you made a decision that is now leading to where you're at now. I always tell people, the road may not be, the best road. It may have a couple of potholes, but like you said, even some of the motivators and inspirators like myself, we do need a little pat on the back sometimes. And I appreciate your kind words, and also very much appreciate this opportunity to be on your show, and hope that the people that are watching it, they enjoy it. And they can look me up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and my website is ifican-youcan.com. And you got to put that dash in between there, because otherwise you're going to go to someone else's website. Somebody beat me to the domain name without the dash, so I had to put the dash in there. But it's ifican-youcan.com. So, and also I'll give my phone number. I don't mind people calling me. I always answer the calls. I'm here in Houston, so if someone wants to meet with me, drink coffee, invite me to dinner. Hey, I always love free dinners. My number 281-236-5153. 281-236-5153. That's always an open line. People can, reach out to me, write me on WhatsApp, whatever. Sometimes I may take a little while to answer because I do get sometimes saturated with, messages. But trust me, it is me that answers all the calls. It is me that answers all the messages. I don't pay someone else to do it because I don't believe that anybody else can answer the call like I can.
Right.
Thank you, Rose, for having me on your show. It's been a pleasure, and God bless you.
God
Absolutely.
bless you.
God bless you too. What amazing show.
Oh
My heart is full.
Mine too, Darnold. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. I'm just so beside myself right now.
Absolutely.
Darnold, this show was epic. That's all I can say. It was epic.
Absolutely. Agreed. So the purpose of the show is to inspire you guys and to give you knowledge and wisdom on financial literacy. And obviously hearing his story, like, it makes me wonder personally, is like, okay, what excuse do I have? Right?
It's
Like, he
really
did it with no arms and no legs, and people wouldn't hire him. So he's like, if no one's going to hire me, guess what? I'm going to start my own business.
and
And
that's what
7 businesses later, he's still
yeah,
going strong.
still going strong. And so, although you may not have gotten statistics on the stock market today or anything like that, but you got some major tips. When other doors will not open, you make your own path. And that's powerful. It's so powerful.
Absolutely. So we appreciate
I
you
mean,
guys for tuning in. If you got any value out of today's show, go ahead and smash that like button. Share this with other people because they will be inspired just like we have. And if you haven't already, subscribe to FinLit Live. And to reach out to Dr. Michelle, you can reach her on
Instagram at The Wealth Tattletale.
And you can find me on Instagram also at Darnold Jr. And we appreciate you guys for tuning in. Stay tuned for next week because we're going to figure out, is solar panels really worth it? Do you really save money with solar? So it's going to be a good show. So I appreciate you guys for getting lit.